The H1B guy here, and today the H1B guy dissects H1B denial rates from fiscal year 2009 to fiscal year 2020. But before we get started, I'd like to ask you, if you haven't already, to please subscribe to the H1B guy channel here on YouTube. It helps me to produce more content like this for you. Back on July 14th, 2020, we posted about H1B approval percentages from 2015 to present from data covered in an article written for DICE by Nick Kolakowski titled H1B Worker Levels Steady Despite Rising Denials. In a research paper posted by the National Foundation for American Policy, the NFAP, who, by the way, is a nonprofit, non-partisan organization dedicated to public policy research on trade, immigration, education, and other issues of national importance. The paper, titled H1B Denial Rates and Numerical Limits as Indicators of Current Restrictions, starts off by stating that 2020 marked the 18th consecutive year that the annual H1B lottery, HCAP lottery as we refer to here on this channel, reached its maximum allotment of 65,000 and 20,000 visas respectively. Quote, the sectors most directly hit by the economic downturn, airlines, restaurants, and hotels, employ relatively few H-1B visa holders, while the top companies employing H-1B visa holders have a significant technology component in their businesses. While that statement may be true for direct employees, it is not true for the thousands of consultants who are employed within the industries that were highlighted. That's the untold story and something that we've been talking about. Let me be clear. I am in favor of third-party and client staffing. It's a necessary component to staff augmentation, specifically in large enterprise organizations that need to be more agile in their staffing. Technology projects driving digital transformation come and go, and so do the technical teams that deliver them. It's just a fact of the last 20 plus years of contract-based staffing model that exploded during this time. But the shift to more automated standards is something we've really seen grow in the last 5 years. This relationship is necessary and critical. Staffing firms are the gatekeepers to the types of jobs that many high-skilled workers fill. In turn, the staffing firms need the high-skilled workers. They are the commodity in demand. Being recruited and placed in organizations that have needs that are left vacant due to a skills shortage. Getting back to the research paper, quote, at U.S. universities, only approximately 20% of the full-time graduate students in computer science and electrical engineering are U.S. students. I'll tell you, that's a pretty shocking statistic. 80% of all students enrolled in an advanced STEM program are not from the U.S.? Why do you think those numbers are so high? If I had a guess, I'd say that it has a lot to do with the OPT EAD and OPT EAD STEM, which combined grant work authorization without sponsorship in the U.S. for up to 36 months. H-1B petitions were denied at a 30% rate beginning in fiscal year 2020 compared to a 32% denial rate in the first quarter of 2019. The highest denials were found in companies providing information technology services. Clearly a sign that companies providing information technology services filing H-1B petitions are having their cases reviewed under a different standard. So the question becomes if this interpretation is legal based on industry and work location. Another telling data point is that 10% of H-1B petitions filed under extension or amendment working for the same employer, or what's referred to as continuing, were denied in the first quarter of fiscal year 2020. And back to the research paper. Quote, a study by economists Giovanni Perry, Kevin Shee, Chad Sparber, and Angie Merrick-Zeitlin examined the last recession and found denying the entry of H-1B visa holders due to the H-1B annual limits impeded job growth for U.S.-born professionals. The number of jobs for U.S.-born workers in computer-related industries would have grown at least 55% faster between 2005 and 2006 and 2009 to 2010. If not for the denial of so many applications in the recent H-1B visa lotteries, the economists concluded. Does this sound familiar? As has been a common theme on this channel, and like it or not, H-1B employees create American jobs. It's just a fact. And back to the research paper. Quote, research by Britta Glennon, an assistant professor at the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania, found new restrictions on H-1B visas are likely to push jobs out of the United States, concluding, any policies that are motivated by concerns about the loss of native jobs should consider that policies aimed at reducing immigration have the unintended consequence of encouraging firms to offshore jobs abroad. Does this sound familiar? As has been a common theme on this channel, like it or not, if we reduce the number of H-1B visa issued and continue to restrict travel and entry into the U.S. for those who already possess a valid visa, we will see exponential outsourcing growth and loss of American jobs. It's just a fact. Back to the research paper. Quote, University of Maryland researchers Sunil Mithis and Henry C. Lucas Jr. examined the skills and compensation of over 50,000 IT professionals in the United States and found foreign-born professionals in information technology earn more than their native counterparts. Contrary to popular belief, non-U.S. citizen IT professionals are not paid less by the company to American IT professionals. More broadly, the evidence in this study provides indirect evidence that visa and immigration policies so far have not had any adverse impact on the wages of American IT professionals due to any relatively lower compensation of foreign IT professionals, according to the study. Does this sound familiar? As has been a common theme on this channel, H-1B workers are not cheap labor. Most H-1Bs fall in the skill level 3 or skill level 4 category, with prevailing wage determinations dictating the minimum salary on several factors, including occupation category and geographic area. And back to the research paper. Quote, beyond the salary requirements, additional costs for H-1B visa holders that are not required when hiring native-born professionals, including paying attorneys and government fees. Employers pay government-imposed fees and legal costs of between $3,400 and $16,560 for an initial H-1B petition and $6,300 to $28,620 for the combined cost of an initial H-1B petition and an extension, according to an analysis by the Society for Human Resource Management, SHRM, and the National Foundation for the American Policy. Sponsoring an H-1B visa holder for permanent residence can be even more expensive. The uncertainty in the H-1B process also raises the cost for companies compared to hiring native-born workers. The money. Here we are again. It's really all about the money. Thousands upon thousands of dollars are spent on H-1B visas. As we've said on this channel many times, H-1B visas are extremely valuable. There is a long line of individuals, corporations, and the government profiting off of H-1B visa holders. And back to the research paper. Quote, USCIS defines Continuing approval denial, H1B petitions with anything other than new employment or new concurrent employment selected on Part 2, Question 2 of the Form I-129, whose first decision is an approval denial. This includes, for example, continuing employment, change of employer, and amended petitions. The data indicates USCIS has established a different standard for deciding cases for companies that provide information technology services. This is the case even though, as attorneys point out, immigration law does not indicate a different standard for adjudications based on the type of firm or the location work will be performed. Remember the question we asked earlier? Is USCIS interpretation for adjudication of petitions filed by companies providing IT services legal or not? Very clearly, there appears to be a dual standard established by USCIS. How that is even possible, considering there's been no amendment to the current law, is a question that remains unanswered. And the last excerpt that we're going to cover from the research paper, quote, new H-1B petitions for initial employment for the top 7 Indian-based companies declined by 64% between fiscal year 2015 and fiscal year 2019. The 7 companies had only 5,428 H-1B petitions for initial employment approved in fiscal year 2019. Accounting for 6% of the 85,000 H-1B petitions for companies, or 0.003% of the U.S. labor force. Evidence indicates the primary reason for the drop in H-1B visas is a choice by companies to build their domestic workforce in the United States and rely less on visas. Now, here's some real myth-busting data. Only 6% of the total allotment of H-1B visas issued in fiscal year 2019 went to the top 7 Indian integrators. This was approximately 5,428 out of a possible 85,000 visas awarded in the HCAP lottery in 2019. Think about that. I will say that I found this research paper very intriguing. It paints a lot of different pictures and affirms a lot of the messaging points we've been trying to relay here on this channel since our launch. I'll admit, I love to be right. But with that being said, I wish I was wrong about the double standards that are being enacted from USCIS. As has been the consistent theme from President Trump's administration, they are tough on immigration. Just look at the denial rates doubling in the last 3 years to prove that. But there are those that are in favor of heightened scrutiny, and they will support the denials and refer to the H-1B fraud as being rampant. There has to be middle ground. I honestly believe that through artificial intelligence, electronic filing, and data collection, USCIS can begin to increase efficiency, detect fraud, and reduce costs for everyone. It's really a no-brainer. For the full post on H-1B denials from fiscal year 2009 to fiscal year 2020, check out the H1Bguy.com. I'd like to ask you if you consider helping support the H1B Guy platform by making a contribution of any amount via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal. I'll put the details in the video description. If you haven't already, I'd like to ask you to like this video, to subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube, and click the bell for notifications. If you made it this far, I just want to say thank you for taking time to watch my content. It just really means a lot to me personally. The H1B Guy, your global source for all things H1B.